ever feel like you're just spinning your wheels, like always putting out fires but never really getting ahead?
Oh yeah, I know that feeling.
If that sounds familiar, well, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to dive into an excerpt from this book that's helped millions break free from that cycle.
Yeah,
The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
a classic.
It is a classic, and it's not just about productivity hacks. It's really about
It's deeper. It's deeper than that.
it is deeper.
Yeah, it gets at the underlying kind of software that's running your life. You know what I mean? Your paradigms.
Okay, paradigms. That sounds kind of heady, yeah, abstract. What does that even mean?
So think about it this way. Your paradigm is kind of like the operating system of your mind. It's that collection of all your beliefs and assumptions and how you see the world, how you kind of interpret information,
Sure.
ultimately how you make decisions.
So it's not just about changing what we do, it's about changing how we see things.
That is a great way to put it, yeah. Covey argues that we need to upgrade our mental software, right?
Sure.
From what he calls, this is really interesting, the personality ethic to the character ethic.
Ooh, okay. What's the difference there?
So the personality ethic, that was all the rage in the last century. It really focuses on kind of outward appearances and quick fixes, techniques for manipulating your way to success.
So it's like putting a Band-Aid on a deeper problem.
Yeah, it's like putting a fresh coat of paint on a house that's got like crumbling foundations.
So it's all about like projecting an image, even if it's not really rooted in anything substantial. Like social media, everyone's curating their perfect life.
Exactly, yeah. And Covey says that is ultimately superficial and unsustainable.
Right.
True effectiveness, he says, it comes from the character ethic, which is really about building that solid inner core. You know, it's based on these timeless principles like integrity, fairness, honesty, human dignity.
It sounds like he's saying that it's not about tricks or shortcuts. It's about like aligning your actions with your values and being the type of person who just naturally attracts good things, good results.
That's it.
But how do habits play into all of this?
Well, habits are really the outward expression of your character. They're the things you do consistently, almost automatically, that end up shaping who you are and the results you get. And Covey's 7 habits, these provide a framework for building habits that align with that strong inner core.
Yeah.
That will lead to genuine lasting effectiveness.
So it's like if your character is the foundation of the house,
Yes.
the habits are the bricks and mortar that you use to build it.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
a great way to put it, yeah. And he lays these habits out, these 7 habits, as a progressive journey. A journey that moves from dependence to independence and then to interdependence.
Okay, so you're saying we build a strong foundation for ourselves first. Then we learn to operate effectively on our own. And then we reach this level where we can achieve even greater things through collaboration, through connection with others.
Yeah, you got it.
And the first 3 habits, these are what he calls the private victories. They're all about mastering yourself, building that solid inner core that we were talking about.
Yes.
Let's dive into those private victories then. Starting with habit 1, be proactive. It sounds simple enough, but what does that actually mean to be proactive? How do we live that out every day?
Well, think of it this way. Being proactive is about recognizing that you have the power to choose your response
Okay.
to any situation rather than just reacting instinctively. It's about being the driver in your life, not just a passenger.
I think I need a real world example here.
Okay. So imagine you're stuck in traffic, right? And you're already late for a super important meeting. A reactive person, they might just get furious, start honking their horn, cursing at the other drivers, just letting their stress levels skyrocket. They're letting the situation control them.
Oh, I've been there.
But a proactive person in that same situation, they might take a few deep breaths. They might use the time to listen to a podcast or make some important calls. Or, you know what, maybe just accept the situation and focus on staying calm.
Right.
They're not denying the reality of the traffic, but they're choosing how they respond.
I can see how that small shift in mindset could make a huge difference in how you experience that, especially in those everyday stressful situations, which we all face.
For sure.
So it's about taking responsibility for your own emotions and actions, even when things aren't going your way.
Exactly. Yeah. It's recognizing that we always have a choice in how we respond.
Yeah.
And ultimately those choices, those are the things that shape our experiences and our outcomes.
That makes a lot of sense. It's empowering to think that even when we can't control what's happening around us, we can control our own inner world. So we've talked about being proactive, but how do we direct that proactive energy effectively? That's where habit 2 comes in, right? Begin with the end in mind. What does that even mean?
It's such a powerful principle, and it applies to every area of life,
Yeah.
It's basically envisioning the outcome you want before you take action. So whether that's, a work project, a personal goal, or just your life as a whole.
Right.
Having a clear destination in mind allows you to make choices that are actually aligned with that vision.
It's kind of like if you're using GPS, you wouldn't just start driving without putting in your destination.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Why would you approach your life or work that way?
Great analogy. And Covey suggests a really, really powerful tool for clarifying that destination. Writing a personal mission statement.
Okay, a personal mission statement.
Yes.
What is that? Why is it so important?
Think of it as your own personal constitution, a document that just lays out your core values, your aspirations, the legacy you want to leave behind. It serves as a guiding compass to help you make decisions that are consistent with your deepest values, with your vision for the future.
I can see how having that kind of clarity would be incredibly valuable. But writing a personal mission statement, I don't know, that sounds a bit daunting. Where do you even begin with something like that?
Well, Covey suggests this really interesting thought experiment.
Yeah.
Imagine you're at your own funeral.
Yeah. Wow.
What would you want people to say about you?
Okay.
What kind of impact do you want to have had on the world? And these questions, they can really help you clarify what truly matters to you and give you a framework for living a life of purpose and meaning.
Wow, that's a powerful exercise, puts things in perspective. Okay, so we've established a direction with habit 2, but even with that clear vision, it's so easy to get caught up in just the day-to-day whirlwind, right? All the tasks, the demands, the busyness. How do we make sure that we're actually spending our time on the things that are most important?
Right.
That's where habit 3 comes in, right? Put first things first.
That's it. Habit 3 is all about prioritizing effectively, making sure that your actions are actually aligned with your goals and your values.
Okay.
And Covey introduces this really brilliant tool for doing just that, the time management matrix.
Okay, the matrix. Tell me more about that. I'm always looking for ways to manage my time better.
Well, it's this really simple but powerful framework. It categorizes all your activities into 4 quadrants, and these quadrants are important and urgent. Important, but not urgent. Not important, but urgent. And then, of course, not important and not urgent.
Right.
And the key insight here is that we tend to spend way too much of our time in the urgent quadrants, even if those urgent tasks, aren't actually that important.
You know what? So true. We get caught up in just like putting out fires and responding to emails and all those little things that are screaming for our attention.
Yeah.
But they're not necessarily the things that are moving us forward.
Exactly. And it's those important but not urgent activities, things like planning or relationship building, personal development, preventative health care. These are the quadrant 2 activities.
Right.
And ultimately, they're the ones that lead to the greatest long-term success, long-term fulfillment.
So it's about shifting our focus from being like problem-minded to being opportunity-minded, investing in the things that will prevent those urgent things and those urgent crises from even popping up in the first place.
You got it. Effective people, they're proactive, they plan ahead, and they prioritize the activities that will make the biggest difference over time.
I'm starting to see how these first 3 habits really work together. It's like building that strong foundation for the house, making sure you have the blueprint and the plan before you start laying the bricks.
I like that.
But we'll have to save the rest of those habits for part 2 of our deep dive.
Yes.
All right, so we've laid the groundwork, those private victories, those essential habits for self-mastery.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't live in a vacuum.
No.
We're constantly interacting with others at work, at home, in our communities. So how do these habits, how do they translate into the realm of relationships?
Yeah, it's a great question. And that's where those public victories really come in, right? Habits 4, 5, and 6.
Right.
They're all about building those strong, effective relationships.
Okay.
Based on trust,
Yeah.
mutual understanding, and a genuine desire to achieve something greater together.
I love that. Okay, so let's start with habit 4. Think win-win. Now, I'll admit, when I first came across this phrase, it sounded a bit too good to be true.
Yeah, I get that.
Like, isn't there always a winner and a loser in in any given situation? How can everyone possibly win all the time?
I understand your skepticism. Win-win. It's not about everyone getting exactly what they want in every single interaction.
Okay.
It's more of a mindset, an approach to interactions where you're genuinely seeking solutions that benefit everyone involved.
So instead of seeing every negotiation or interaction as like a zero-sum game, where one person's gain is automatically the other person's loss.
Right.
We're looking for ways to kind of expand the possibilities,
right.
so that everyone can walk away feeling like they've gained something.
Exactly, yeah. It's about collaboration, not competition. And it requires a real shift in thinking from scarcity to abundance. So instead of assuming there's only a limited amount of resources or success to go around, we believe there's enough for everyone, and we focus on finding solutions that create value for everyone involved.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this could work, but it still sounds, I don't know, it sounds pretty idealistic. How does this win-win thinking actually play out in the real world, where people often have competing interests and priorities?
Well, it starts with building a really strong foundation of trust, what Covey calls the emotional bank account.
Okay, I've heard that term before, but I'm not entirely sure I understand it. Can you break that down for me?
Yeah, so think of it like a real bank account, but instead of money,
okay,
you're depositing and withdrawing things like trust and goodwill and positive energy. Every interaction you have with someone is either a deposit or a withdrawal.
So things like being kind, keeping promises, being honest and respectful, those are all deposits.
Exactly, yeah. And those deposits, they build up a reserve of trust that allows you to weather those inevitable storms that come up in any relationship. When you have a high balance in your emotional bank account with someone, you can make the occasional mistake, you can have a disagreement, you can even go through a period of conflict without jeopardizing the whole relationship.
It's like having that safety net. It allows you to, take risks and be vulnerable and work through challenges without that fear of destroying the whole connection.
Exactly.
But what about those withdrawals? What are some of the things that deplete that emotional bank account?
Well, withdrawals can be anything that damages trust or just creates negativity in the relationship. Things like breaking promises, being disrespectful, gossiping about someone behind their back, or failing to follow through on commitments. These actions, they really chip away at the foundation of trust. And over time, they can lead to resentment, conflict, even a complete breakdown of the relationship.
Yeah, I can see how that would happen. It's like letting your bank account go into overdraft. Eventually, you're going to run into some serious problems.
For sure.
Okay, so we've talked about creating that foundation of trust and abundance, but how do we actually go about finding those win-win solutions? It still feels a bit like a mystery to me.
Well, the key is to really shift from a transactional mindset to a collaborative mindset. So instead of focusing on what you can get out of the interaction, you focus on understanding the other person's needs, their perspectives, and you look for solutions that meet those needs while also achieving your own goals.
So it's about listening deeply, asking questions, being genuinely curious about the other person's perspective.
Exactly, yeah. And that brings us to habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Ah, yes. This one feels particularly relevant, especially in today's world where everyone seems so quick to share their own opinions and perspectives without really taking the time to listen to others.
It's so true. We live in this culture of constant communication, but real understanding seems to be in short supply these days. And Covey argues that this habit, seek first to understand, this is the key to unlocking really effective communication and building those strong, lasting relationships.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more about what it means to seek first to understand.
It goes beyond simply hearing the words someone is saying. It's about really putting yourself in their shoes, It's about listening with your eyes, your heart, your mind. Paying attention not just to the content of their message, but also their body language, their tone of voice, the underlying emotions that they're expressing.
So it's about empathetic listening, right? Really trying to grasp the other person's perspective, their feelings, their motivations, even if they're different from your own.
Precisely, yeah. And it's a skill that takes practice, Our natural tendency is to just jump in with our own thoughts and solutions and judgments before we've really fully understood where the other person is coming from.
Oh, it's so true. Our brains are wired to filter information through our own experiences and biases. It takes a real conscious effort to step outside of ourselves and truly see the world through another person's eyes.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do that? It sounds like a tall order, especially when you're in the middle of a heated discussion or disagreement.
It starts with silencing that inner voice.
Yeah.
You know, that constant stream of thoughts and judgments that's always running in the background of our minds.
Yeah.
It's about focusing all of our attention on the other person, really trying to grasp the meaning behind their words
Yeah.
and acknowledging their feelings, even if we don't necessarily agree with their perspective.
So it's about being fully present with the other person, creating a space where they feel heard, understood, respected, even if you don't see eye to eye on everything.
Exactly. Yeah. And when you do that, when you really listen with empathy, something magical happens. The walls start to come down, defenses soften, and a genuine connection starts to form.
Yeah, I can see how that would be transformative. It's like creating a bridge of understanding, that allows you to connect on a deeper level, even when there are those differences in opinion or perspective.
For sure.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of seeking first to understand, but what about being understood? How do we effectively communicate our own needs and perspectives once we've truly listened to the other person?
Yeah, it's a great question.
That's where habit 6 comes in, right? Synergize.
That's right, yeah. And this habit really builds on the foundation of those previous two. You've created a foundation of trust, you've listened deeply to understand the other person's perspective, and now you're ready to bring your own ideas and insights to the table in a way that's truly collaborative and creative.
So it's not just about compromise, where each person gives up a little bit to reach some sort of middle ground. It's something more than that.
It is, yeah. Synergy, it's about recognizing that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It's about believing that when people with different perspectives and experiences and talents come together in a spirit of mutual respect and collaboration, they can create something truly extraordinary, something that just wouldn't be possible individually.
Okay, now this is starting to sound a little mystical to me. Can you give me a real-world example of synergy in action? How does this actually work in practice?
Okay, sure. So imagine a team that's working on a really challenging project, right? Each member brings their own unique skills and perspectives to the table. One person might be a brilliant strategist, another might be a master of details, and another might just have this knack for creative problem solving. If they approach the project with that win-lose mentality, they might end up competing with each other, hoarding information, just trying to prove that their ideas are the best.
Oh, I've definitely seen that happen before. It can be so frustrating when ego and competition get in the way of real collaboration.
For sure. But if they embrace a win-win mindset and commit to seeking first to understand each other's perspectives, they create a space where synergy can really flourish. They listen to each other's ideas, they build on each other's strengths, they challenge each other to think outside the box. And in that process, something magical happens. They come up with solutions that are more innovative, more effective, more creative than anything they could have come up with on their own.
It's like that saying, two heads are better than one, but taken to a whole new level.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's not just about the outcome, right? It's also about the process, the experience of creating something meaningful together.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
When people experience true synergy, they walk away feeling energized, inspired, and connected.
Yeah.
They've not only achieved a great result, but they've also strengthened their relationships and expanded their own thinking in the process.
I love that. Okay, so we've covered habits 1 through 6. We've built that strong foundation for ourselves. We've learned to operate effectively on our own, and we've discovered this power of collaboration and synergy. But where do we go from here? Is that it? Have we reached the pinnacle of effectiveness?
Well, as with any journey of growth and development, it's not really about reaching a final destination.
Right.
It's about continuous improvement, about constantly striving to become the best version of ourselves. And that brings us to the final habit 7, sharpen the saw.
Sharpen the saw. Okay, now that sounds intriguing. I'm guessing it's not about literal woodworking skills, right?
No. Not unless you're building your own effectiveness toolkit.
Okay.
No, this habit is all about renewing and re-energizing yourself across 4 key dimensions: physical, spiritual, mental, and social emotional. It's about recognizing that you're not a machine, but a complex human being with needs that need to be met in order to really function at your best.
So it's like taking a pit stop in the race of life. You know, you can't expect to keep running at full speed without taking time to refuel, recharge, make sure everything's in good working order.
That's a great analogy.
So how do we actually go about sharpening the saw in each of these dimensions?
Well, let's start with the physical dimension. This one's pretty straightforward. It's about taking care of your body through, exercise, nutrition, and adequate sleep.
Right.
Covey recommends aiming for at least 30 minutes of moderate intensity exercise most days of the week.
Okay.
Eating a healthy diet that's rich in fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, and getting 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep each night.
Makes sense. It's hard to be effective when you're running on fumes.
Right.
What about the spiritual dimension? That one seems a little more abstract.
Yeah, the spiritual dimension, it's all about connecting with your inner self, finding a sense of purpose and meaning in life.
Okay.
It's about nurturing your soul, however you define that.
So it's not necessarily about religion, although it could be for some people.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
It's about identifying those activities that bring you a sense of peace, joy, and connection to something bigger than yourself.
Okay.
For some people, that might involve meditation, prayer, or spending time in nature. For others, it might be expressing themselves through art, music, writing. The key is to find those activities that really nourish your soul and make you feel alive.
I love that. It's about taking care of our inner world, just as we take care of our physical bodies. Okay, what about the mental dimension? How do we keep our minds sharp and engaged?
The mental dimension, it's all about keeping your mind active and challenged. It's about learning new things, expanding your knowledge base, engaging in activities that stimulate your intellect. This could involve reading books, taking classes, having stimulating conversations, or just, even engaging in hobbies that challenge you to think in new ways.
So it's about keeping those mental gears turning, staying curious and never stop learning.
Exactly.
Okay, and finally we have the social emotional dimension. This is all about nurturing your relationships, practicing empathy, and contributing to something larger than yourself.
That's right.
This is about recognizing that we're not isolated beings, but part of a larger web of connection.
Exactly, yeah. And investing in those connections, that's essential for our well-being and our effectiveness. It's about making time for the people who matter most, practicing kindness and compassion in your interactions with others, and finding ways to contribute to your community or to causes that you care about.
This habit 7, this really ties everything together.
It does.
It's a reminder that true effectiveness, it's not just about achieving those external goals. It's about cultivating a life of balance and fulfillment, and making sure we're taking care of ourselves across all dimensions of our being.
That's it.
Yeah, it really feels like this habit 7, it's the glue that holds all of this together. It's about recognizing that we're not machines, we're whole beings, and we need to take care of ourselves to really show up in the world.
Yeah, it's like Covey saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're not taking care of your own physical, spiritual, mental, social, emotional needs, you're not going to have the energy, the resources to be truly effective in any area of your life.
This has been a really insightful deep dive. Covey's 7 Habits, it's so much more than just, a productivity system. It's really a philosophy for living a more meaningful and fulfilling life.
It is. Yeah, it's about recognizing that true effectiveness, it comes from aligning your actions with your values, continuously investing in your own development, and building those strong, authentic relationships with others.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious, what's the one thing you hope our listeners will take away from this exploration of the 7 habits?
Oh, if I had to choose just one takeaway, it would be this. Remember that real change, it starts from the inside out.
Okay.
It's not about trying to force yourself to adopt new behaviors without addressing those underlying paradigms and beliefs that are really driving your actions.
Okay.
It's about cultivating that inner garden, nurturing the soil, creating those conditions for real growth and transformation.
I love that analogy. So it's not about, beating ourselves up for our shortcomings, but about approaching ourselves with curiosity and compassion and creating that space for positive change to kind of emerge organically.
Exactly, yeah. And the 7 habits are like the tools that help us tend to that garden.
Right.
to cultivate those qualities of character and those skills of effectiveness that will really allow us to flourish in every area of our lives.
This has been a really enriching conversation. Covey's work, it's so rich and thought-provoking. It's easy to see why it's had such a profound impact on so many people around the world.
And what's remarkable is that, these principles, these are timeless and universal. They apply to people of all ages, backgrounds, professions. Whether you're a student, a CEO, a stay-at-home parent, an artist, the 7 habits really do offer a roadmap for living a more effective and fulfilling life.
So as we bring this deep dive to a close, I want to leave our listeners with a challenge. Think about one area of your life where you'd like to see some growth or improvement. Choose one habit that really resonates with you and experiment with it this week. Put it into practice, even in small ways, and see what happens.
You might be surprised by the transformative power of even those seemingly small shifts in your thinking and behavior. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about progress, not perfection.
And above all, be patient with yourself. This is a journey, not a destination. Celebrate your successes, learn from your setbacks, and just keep striving to become the best version of yourself.
That's it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the 7 habits of highly effective people. And until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep sharpening your saw.
Yes, keep sharpening your saw.
And keep diving deep.